Phillips. Hey, Monica.
Hey, Mia.
I'm so excited. So this is a fellow yogi of mine and coach for high potential leaders and teams in leadership, team culture, wellness, business development, innovation, and heart-based leadership, which I'm sure you've been watching as a theme of our day today. But what I love too is she really brings a totally different sphere in it because of her diversity understandings and legal understandings. And so it's awesome to have some different flavor going on in our retreat. She's the founding coach of the Coaching Fellowship, working with high impact women. She's a mentor and advisor to legal tech companies and with Founder Institute. In 2019, she's named Silicon Valley Business Journal Woman of Influence. She's a registered yoga teacher, certified, and integrates mindfulness and yoga philosophy in all of her work. I can't believe you got that award. I was already trying to talk you up, and then I actually, that's amazing. Congratulations.
Thank you. Just to clarify, Jane Finette founded the Coaching Fellowship. I was one of the first coaches with her, so we were called founding coaches, but Jane Finette is really extraordinary.
Is that all virtual?
Well, I coach women all over the world, so yes, all virtual. We used to meet in person for alumni events, but haven't done that in a while.
It'll come back, I believe.
Yeah.
So I wanted to talk mental strength and how to use yoga. We talked a lot of philosophy this morning. We have a different, community here this afternoon, and I want to kind of begin and end with this understanding of the yamas and niyamas, what it means to be, diligent in being externally clear, and the kind of person we're being, for example, being non-harming, being in a state of cleanliness, and just having love be the center of where we operate from. And then also those internal values, right? Self-discipline, surrender, contentment. And I know that they both work. I know they both work in our lives so differently. So tell me a little bit about what you're up to, in 2021, and how it's evolving for you.
Facebook reminded me that 4 years ago today, I was at the Haight-Ashbury Street Parade, and there was this beautiful picture of all the love signs. And quite often, unfortunately, like every time I read what's going on in the world, or I hear stories from friends who face discrimination or hate, it hurts. It hurts that people learn to see others with hate instead of with love. And I guess I do know why, sort of. We've had a few guests we've heard from talk about trauma in the body. And Bessel van der Kolk is an author, a psychologist whom I really love, psychiatrist, I guess. And his work talks about trauma in the body, how we hold it. And I think ultimately people hate externally because they don't love internally. And I'm a certified positive intelligence coach on top of my work as a leadership coach, and I bring that into yoga, and then I take my yoga into my coaching. And when we start our morning on our mat, there's this routine that's really beautiful. There's this habit that fills us with grounding, getting present, and just connecting to the now, this moment, being present, because so often we're stuck up here with all the things that we have to do, and it can be a lot. And especially in the legal industry, I spend a lot of time working with lawyers. There's so much stress and anxiety, and I think it starts with even before law school. We have to compete to get into the best law school. We have to compete to be the best in law school. We have to compete to get the best law firm placement. We have to compete to then be partner. This constant competition does not allow space for inclusion. It's actually creating everyone against you, right? Others and me. And I have to work hard to be this number one, and everyone else can't be better than me. And so this constant competition starts to make us compare. And when we're comparing, we're not showing ourselves love. We're not inviting in abundance, and we're not living in being present with what's possible. And we're not living in the positive emotions. We have a range, right? And anger can serve us, and then we connect to it. We can say, okay, I'm feeling angry. What do I want to do? What knowledge do I need? What power do I need? What inspiration do I need? So my motto is the spark that ignites inspiration and leads people to action. I think we can be angry about something, but if we're just sitting here being angry, we're not actually going to take action to do the thing that matters to change it. And so it's then, how do you shift out of that? Do you want to sit and be angry all the time? No, because it hurts your body, right? So like Lisa, I have an abusive ex-husband, and it's, moving on from those experiences is really listening to what's happening, understanding what you can do for yourself, and not giving away your power. So the gift is, I learned how to really own my power in the workplace, in other circumstances in life, and in coaching.
I love that. And when you connect that you can authentically be yourself, even in the competitive workplaces, you begin to see that version of it differently. And I think so many, if we could take the whole law competitiveness and flip it and put love into it and still have people chase their dreams, still be ambitious, right? Imagine the good that would continue to ripple. And that's why I think, bringing you on was so powerful, because we can, even when we're not in the bubble, right? There's so many different bubbles we've shown today. When you witness the difference, you can begin to connect those intersections of what's possible. So, this is a kind of an interview style. I'm curious, we can talk about your own personal life and how you make priorities, speaking and being out in public and, constantly working with clients is an empath's, you have to balance those things. So, what's that one self-care tip that you can always lean on?
Oh, yoga, right. I give a lot of keynote speeches, and I do a lot of workshops around positive intelligence and mindfulness. And I work with these busy executives who say, well, I don't have time to start a meditation practice. Yeah, great. You know what? Maybe once an hour, notice your breath. Because we breathe all day long. It's autonomic. It happens whether we are aware of it or not. But how many times are we actually aware of it? And just like the energy healing that Dr. Lisa did, imagine if we just once an hour counted our breath. It would be incredible. It would give us so much more. It would allow us to stop the reaction of the amygdala, right? The fight, flight, freeze, freeze response that we're so often in the middle of, and allow us to actually see, be present, see what's happening, stop, pause, think, what do we want to achieve from this? How do we want to be? And then also think, in 5 years from now, is this moment going to matter? So I bring a lot of that into the work I do. And sometimes it's wake up and, do an hour of yoga, and sometimes it's 5 minutes of breathing. And when I say yoga, it's not the asana practice that maybe all of us think about, but it's a range of self-care. Sometimes, I was sharing with a friend earlier today, sometimes it's just a forward fold where I, clasp my hands behind my back, open my chest. Already it feels so opening and expansive. And I actually feel like more is possible when I do that. I take a forward fold and it feels really good. The blood flows to my head. It's calming. It activates the parasympathetic nervous system. And then I go, okay, now I'm ready for what's next. And it's just this power of saying, I actually can put myself first. Just like what today is all about, right? Like putting ourselves first, bringing in that self-care, loving ourselves, so we can go out and share that with other people who maybe don't have that same self-care within themselves.
Yeah, and if you haven't done a forward fold, I highly recommend you try them daily for 3 days and see how much more flexible you get. And I truly, as a yoga teacher too, believe a flexible body breeds a flexible mind. When you're in pain, when you've got the aches, not only are you holding emotions, which we know, right, we can shift in a yoga practice in a curated class, which is what I do with my private clients, but the flexibility, you feeling good in your skin is one of those other biohacks that you can do to really get yourself to stay motivated, to stick to the goals. I'm curious, you teach which form of yoga, or all forms, or?
I teach Hatha yoga, and I know it's a big category. I have a beginner class on Tuesdays and Fridays at 7:30 a.m. Pacific. And then I have all levels, kind of, typically level 1. So I can do level 2 for, I provide a range of options. I tend to invite more beginners into my classes. That's just, I think, who I've noticed I attract. And it can be restorative. It can be vinyasa flow. It can be ultimately beginner in terms of just coming back to the basics of what's happening in our body, and ultimately allowing everyone who comes in to teach yoga, take yoga with me, to connect to their range, right? And not like someone else's goal, but just what's right for you, because we're all different. And so maybe we want a yoga practice, the asana yoga practice, but it doesn't look like, putting your head to your foot, right? And maybe it's just child's pose. Maybe it's shavasana, which is actually really hard for some of my hyperachiever friends. It's sometimes the hardest pose because people are wanting to, push so much. And so just allowing themselves to breathe and get out of the chatter and the force and the needing to be something else, but just allowing ourselves to be who we are right now.
I agree. And when you can access emotion through that, like when it's not comfortable and you feel stuck in your tissues, right? Or you're sore from that workout or anything like that, that's that moment that you can face yourself, that you can evolve, that you can learn something about it. And I'm really grateful to know a facilitator like you, because spirit plays such a big role in that transformation, and holding space for people is a gift. And not everybody chooses it, right? You could have totally chose the legal trajectory, and you chose to heal and share your story, which we could have totally expanded on, I'm sure, for much longer. But it's nice to have a taste of you, Miss Monica. I'm sending people to sparkpluglabs.co. Can you tell us about it really briefly?
Yeah, I wanted to share one more thing too, because Marcus had mentioned something about the ego and worth. And I think it's really important. And when we look out and we see hyperachievers chasing the success in money and title, I think it's really important to check that and say, what is success? I really do believe that when we do our best work, someone will come in and want to pay us for that. And your worth does not decline if you don't get paid money for it. Your worth, you're born with this inherent value that's so beautiful. And I think so often we feel bad and we're afraid because we think that our worth is connected to those external value markers that others have, instead of actually noticing what the value is for ourselves. So sparkpluglabs.co has a lot of information. It has podcast interviews on yoga and with CEOs. Some of my favorites, including Shelly Archambault, the former CEO of MetricStream, Diane Bondi, who has a great episode on ahimsa. She's an awesome yoga teacher, has published 2 books on yoga and lives in Canada, and so many others. My mentor, Tiffany Russo, Jean Heilman, all these incredible yoga teachers. And then all the information on coaching, including positive intelligence and mindfulness. And for this conference, anyone who subscribes to my contact list will get entered into a drawing to win 1 free seat in my 7-week positive intelligence community. It's a $4,000 value. I offer it for $1,000 on my website, and so it's really quite an incredible program. It's the training and certification that I did with Shirzad Chamine, the Stanford lecturer and best-selling author of the book Positive Intelligence, and it's an app-based platform that I use to guide people through connecting to that positive intelligence.
Oh my gosh, it's so generous of you, Monica. And just knowing that liberation can be that close, and take that chance, click the link, and just know that there's it's energy. And if you know that that's the place where you need to really harness in your positive intelligence, and you feel like Monica's your guide, like lean into that. So thank you so much for bringing that to this Well-Fed Warrior community.
That's a pleasure to be here with you, Mia. Thanks for creating this space for us.
You're welcome.